In order for this integration with Resolve to work, one of the prerequisites is that you should have a studio version of Resolve. And, that is kind of one of the, first things, guys, you should have. And by the way, this workflow works also if your Resolve is on Windows or on Linux. It is possible actually to connect, your, local Resolve that you're going to be using for matching with any of other machines. And this is really how our large media clients are using it. They have a workstation where they prepare a project using Colourlab Ai and then save that project on a shared database and then open that project on the main grading systems that are usually Linux or Windows. And then, so it's actually, you are not limited only to be able to use this on a Mac machine. So just so you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just import all of my clips in. Now, before I start, I just need to make some small adjustments, and this is just really for you as well, just to get a little bit of a consistency. And this is one thing that, that because Mac is managing colors for you, you should take advantage of that, just as long as you tell Mac what you're using. So there is a couple of things you want to do on your Mac. The first thing you have to go into your DaVinci Resolve preferences. And inside the preferences, there is a basically which is called general preferences. You have here two options. One's called use 10-bit precision in viewers if available, and the other one's called use Mac display color profiles for viewers. So both of those mean, hey, you can take over my color management. That's basically what we are saying to it. Just feel free, to take over my color management, and we want that. Okay. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to then tell your Mac or your Resolve in this case to what exactly your display is. And you do that by going into Color Management tab in Project Settings, and in there is this timeline color space setting. Now, this timeline color space setting is not going to have any effect to how your SDI output is going to look like, how your reference monitor is going to look like. This is purely for purposes to how your desktop is going to look like. So what you do then is you say, use separate color space and gamma. And then you tell, if I'm now on a MacBook Pro, so I'm going to select this is P3D65, which is, P3 color space with D65 white point. And then your gamma should be sRGB. Now, I know that this sounds a little bit weird, but actually it's all going to make sense. So you understand. So what Apple did is, normally Apple works always in sRGB color space. Okay, so you go say sRGB. So if you have any other monitor connected to your Mac that is not, Pro monitor, you should always use this sRGB. So then the only thing that the Mac did is they said, okay, for displays that have a better quality Pro displays, we can go as far as P3D65 and then sRGB. So that's an important setting because that is now going to give you accurate image on your desktop. Okay. All right. So the next thing then would, and by the way, you can also have it calibrated as Rec 709, even though I'd never recommend calibrate your GUI as Rec 709. That's never a good idea. Okay. Now I'm going to go into my Colourlab Ai. Okay. Let me just open it a little bit more so it kind of I get a full screen. Okay, great. So you should do the same setting in Colourlab Ai as well. So you go then into Colourlab Ai and then you click onto preferences. And then here under color, you should say display color management, and you should select the same thing, whatever you selected in Resolve. So if it was sRGB, you should select that. And if it's P3D65, you should select that. We have limited the amount of options to what's really possible to connect to a Mac, so you have only really 3 options. So once you do that, whatever you're going to see on your desktop inside Colourlab is going to look exactly on the desktop inside your DaVinci as well, and also your SDI is going to work. When I'm talking about SDI, there's a couple of other things that I would like you to kind of select as well. First of all, you have 2 options how to work with Colourlab. There's an option which is called advanced and option which is called standard. So the standard is when we have a CDL and then we have a ShowLUT. So we have 2 elements, okay? Inside that ShowLUT, we have IDT, ShowLUT, and ODT, okay? Advanced means we have 4 processing points instead of 2. Advanced means, oh, I put an IDT first, then I put and CDL, then I put ShowLUT, and then I put the ODT. So we are syncing with Resolve 4 nodes, okay? So this is only, by the way, possible with systems that can support, this workflow, and DaVinci is only one that actually can do it, where you are really using full column managed workflow, and you're able to do it in such a way. So that's what I would recommend. I would say, like, okay, guys, just stick to the advanced pipeline for DaVinci Resolve. There is a couple of other things that also I like to select in video output. I don't have anything selected here, but I should always kind of warn you, use this button here, release video IO hardware when not in focus. That way you can share your SDI output between Resolve and Colourlab. So when Resolve is using it, then Resolve takes over your SDI output, and when Colourlab is using it, then Colourlab takes over, the output. Sometimes it doesn't switch, sometimes Resolve doesn't release it. Sometimes you have to go onto desktop first and then Colourlab, and then it kind of gives you a click. We're kind of figuring out why sometimes Resolve doesn't release it, but in some systems it works perfectly. Some users have reported that sometimes they have to go first to desktop for DaVinci to resolve an SDI. Okay, and there is one more setting that potentially could be causing you issues, which is that since version 17, Blackmagic allows you to put your LUT folder into any location. You're not forced anymore to use the location that they had as a custom. I personally didn't change it, even though they allowed me to do so, but some of our customers have, because they want to have a shared LUT folder. Like, for example, Company 3 shares their LUTs amongst every system, and they have a networked version. So for them, they really needed to put this in, and we are supporting that as well. So what you can do is you can then say, it's here, default Resolve LUT export folder, and you should keep it on default folder, or if you have another folder, go ahead and select it. So that way, whatever LUT you export from Colourlab, Resolve is going to be able to automatically pick up. So these are like just a few settings that I would do like before we start. Then in terms of the project settings here, this is what I would do in Colourlab. I go first, and make sure that my color pipeline is advanced as I selected in preferences. By the way, you can, in the middle of the project, still switch between advanced and standard if you want to. Not sure whether you want to do this, but just in case, if you ever find yourself, oh, I don't know. Here is an interesting setting. We're going to see this a little bit later when I start syncing back. What you do here is you're selecting what node tree you want to send back to DaVinci, because we have a default node tree that is set by, but now we can also import custom node tree, which is a huge help. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. And then also what I wanted to show you here is the smart match settings, and I tweak them a little bit. I don't leave them on default. You see what I do is I switch. My default always is perceptual 1. And then what I do is I switch off all of these, and I leave only theatrical. I leave only RGB and perceptual 1. And the other ones, I can then optionally always click on them and get them, but I normally rely on these few to give me the best result. And then only if I don't get the best results from those, then I proceed to getting the other versions as well. And also make sure that you're working on a model 1.1, which is the highest quality model. The faster model you should use only on dailies when you have tons of material. This is when we don't analyze every frame, where we analyze only frames that show us some changes. And that's a little bit faster. This is for our customers who have 20 hours of material to process a day, and they don't really want to process every frame. They go okay, and these are some reality TV shows, where cameras locked off, and they still ingest everything, because they don't have time, to select and cut it. So it's just easier for them just to take all the rushes that they shot on the day, and they just process everything. For them, this is why we have this faster method. But for all us normal people that don't shoot reality TV, just stick to the high quality. Okay. So what I did now is I'm going to say, okay, great. I'm in now. This is my project setup. Now all I have to do is I have to say resolve fetch. Okay. And we're going to just read everything that's on your timeline. It's coming through. And that really works really well. I have to say that, we improved a little bit speed changes. We improved, layer support. There is, this is really the most elegant way how to move from one system to another. Now, since this material has been transcoded and the naming conventions are completely custom, our smart IDT tool is not so smart because it's basically going like, I don't really know what camera this is, you have to help me with that. Okay, so no problem. So what I do then is I click on plus here and I say, okay, this my main camera is going to be red. And then you say here, you just select red camera. Okay, where is the red? Okay, fantastic. And now it gives me, the correct IPP2 values that I want. By the way, when we're talking about red, I have a really interesting version. If you ever find yourself that you're like having a little bit issues with red, with out of gamut and all of that, I have created a custom version of red, which is called IPP2 Limited. And I find that it's giving me better results. I prefer it, but so just so you know, it's custom. It's not going to look exactly like, red color signs. Maybe it's a good news. Maybe you don't want it to look like that red. Actually, I think it has improved significantly from what natively red is giving you. So actually, we use this IDT on one of recent feature films that I was, consulting for, and they were super happy with it. So that's why I kind of put it in here as well. Okay, so now I got my red. And then this is not the only camera that we're using. We actually have a second camera as well. And this is there's some DJI footage, some drone footage. So I'm going to go and click again onto this plus. I'm going to say drone. Okay, and then I'm going to select the DJI. Okay, and it tells me, oh, it's probably that you're going to be shooting in D-Log and D-Gamut. Yeah, this is probably what it is. Okay, great. So then what you do is you go and you shift click on all of the shots that are red. Okay, you just say, okay, these are all of my shots. This is all red, 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 red. You drag them and you drop them on top of red camera and tells you, hey, you have 10 shots selected, and you'll straight away preview what these shots look like. And then they have 2 drone shots. You can recognize them because they are, drone, they look like drone. And then we're going to just apply that here as well. Perfect. So now I got my IDT sorted. Perfect. This is good. I'm going to say done. Okay. And now I'm back in. What I did earlier, as you can tell, I have in DaVinci applied scene markers. If you don't have these scene markers, like, what you can do with them, you can apply them by pressing an M. So you basically, if to delete them, you press here and you can press M, and that's going to give you a scene marker. So in total, I have created here, 3 scenes. Okay. So just kind of separated them a little bit on kind of, 3 kind of, little, shortcuts and so on. Okay. So once I got that, the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to go and establish a ShowLUT. Okay, but before I do that, I have kind of, got from my client some references, and I discussed this with the client. I kind of spoke to them what they want, what kind of looks they want. And I always start with some still references. I like to share before they even shoot something, these references with them. So this is my mood board called Biker that I put together. So the way how you put a mood board is you import your stills, and then you just kind of decide which stills you want, and you just drag and drop it onto your mood boards. And you can create new mood boards here. You can say plus, you create new mood board, right? And you call it like my desert grade, let's say. Okay. And now you can start, dropping shots that you think are relevant for this particular, mood board. I already prepared it before the grade, this, and it's called Biker Mood Board. And here are some shots that I found, and I went just literally to, shot deck, and I went through it and I looked through some images. So I thought, this is a great looking image. This is a great looking image. This is a great looking image. This as well. These are, and actually, funny enough, I found even something from Lawrence of Arabia and found something from Star Wars. So I can actually work with all of those, right? I could be like, oh, which one do you want? Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go and, maybe say, look, maybe this shot here should be like a little bit like a reference for me. Maybe I want to start with this. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go into my show looks. Okay, so let me just remove this filter here. So, you've probably seen that in this version, we shipped like 2 new categories. One is called Digi, which is, all the interesting looks, but they don't emulate necessary film. They are just, like looks that are created, beyond just the film emulation. And then we have like a film emulation profiles, and there is a whole category of those. And they are all editable. You know, they are not like you're not going to be linked into all of them. But what's also interesting is that you can actually use these tags we created for you to help you find, you know, correct look. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to say, okay, this is definitely a feature look I'm trying to create. Okay, feature. And also this is definitely going to be warm. Okay, so I want it to be warm. And this is also definitely going to be high contrast. You know, it's a desert, so it needs to be kind of high contrast, high key light, right? And then this is going to filter out only those looks that are basically fulfilling this category. So then you don't have to, like, you know, click through thousands of them. You can just quickly just go through those and you say, oh my God, look, this one already is working really well. It's matching really nicely in terms of the contrast and palette. So I'm going to say, okay, this is the look AS005. I'll stick with that one for the moment. I like it. And now I'm just going to go and press S to see what it's going to do. Okay. Now it kind of gave me, you see, it reduced the saturation a little bit. It gave me slightly different result. But, you know, I can also be inspired to do a little bit more. I don't necessarily want to just copy the look from that. Maybe I can see like what I can do a little bit more with this. Can I kind of explore a little bit possibilities? So for that, I'm going to go and click onto my match settings. And in my match settings, there is something which is called basically Open Advanced Match. Here we go. Okay. And now I'm going to say Open Advanced Match. And I'm going to say now Start Advanced Match Mode. So what it has to do, it has to analyze your frame first. Okay. And what you do normally, it starts with this kind of, you know, all these options switched on. And then by, you know, simply playing with it, switching options on and off, you come to very interesting features. And they are all real time now as well. And in the past, we had to recalculate each time it's selected, but now we have kind of, you know, saved you all of those. So we have two models, you know, you can say, okay, Berlin or Venice, okay, you know, no, not much difference there. Do I want to work in dailies mode? Oh, not really. Do you want to work in, do you want to match saturation? Do you want to match, you know, the contrast? If you say no, you see how it kind of changed. Definitely want to match contrast. Do you want to match the brightness? No, I don't want to match the brightness. Leave that. Yes, you know, sorry, because I don't match the brightness. You see, everything's a little bit too bright. They want to match the color as well. You know, yeah, perfectly. So you can then quickly just kind of go through some of these settings and see if there is anything that you think might give you more interesting results. What you can also do is you can then sometimes just pick a look. Like, let's say, for example, I say, look, I only want this still. Okay. And I'm going to go and say to this match to reference still. Okay. And now I'm going to go and see what options would I be getting if I just work like that. So you can just steal only an element from a still. So for example, you only want color. Oh, interesting. Or you only want to match, you know, the brightness. Oh, right. You know, or you only want to match the contrast. Oh, right. You know, like that. Or you want to change the model and match the contrast with different model and stuff like this. So you really have like, you know, loads of different options to how you can, you know, play with it. And sometimes this playing is really how you discover an interesting look. Sometimes this is really the way how you get to it. You know, you shouldn't just kind of, you know, be too rigid about this process, because, you know, creativity is a little bit about playing around. It's always a little bit about, hey, how can I, you know, how can I come and invent something that is just going to give me slightly better results, right? I'm going to go back to this biker because I found that this biker was actually, you know, really giving me like a, you know, great results. And I'm just going to go and, you know, see if I leave all of those like this, or maybe I'm going to be like this. And I think the only one I'm going to switch off is the saturation. Yeah, maybe that's nice. And then let me see color. Yeah, that's good. I'll leave them all like this. I think it's nice. Leave it like this because they feel really, really nice. I like it. All right. So now we have the reference. I press R. Now you see this image has become my reference. And then I just go and say, press A. Okay. And A means match scene. Okay. And bang, it's going to go and it's going to basically do the scene. Here you always see the reference. I'm going to now press tilde. And that's going to show me my scopes. I'm going to click on the scopes twice. I'm going to be able to see side by side. Okay, press tilde again. Now I see reference again. And now I can just quickly compare and see what the job it did. I can also go and check here and see, hey, what's my darkest frame looking? Much better. I can see my brightest frame. Perfect. So they're all looking good. Let me see here. Fantastic. You see, actually, it did a pretty good job. I'm going to now press G, okay? And that is going to save this particular look into my gallery. I see straight away it opened the gallery. And then I can then, because I want to save this look, and it's not going to take any space or anything like that, just go ahead and anytime you find something you like, just press G, just use it like as your like a reference. What is interesting now, I can use this, gallery look just to click on it to copy it, or I could right mouse click on it and say match to shot look. So now it's actually going to use it as a reference shot, and it's going to give me some options for that. So you see, I can say, well, perceptual or RGB. Let me see which one's going to use theatrical, maybe that one. But there is another trick that you can do. You can say, well, you know what? I actually want to target particular frame. So you see, I can go and say, okay, this is now the frame I really like, and I'm going to target this frame. Okay. So if I, for example, going to say, okay, match now to this shot, right? So I'm going to say, match this shot to this look, and I have selected this as a target. It's going to recalculate it based on the target. Okay, I like it. It didn't make much difference, but it's sometimes you want to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to go and press A again. Let's see what's going to do with that scene. Perfect. Nice. This is all looking good. Then let's see what's the brightest frame looking here, because there's this kind of, so this is the brightest. Oh, it's still good. And the darkest, this is when she's behind the sun. It's looking good. I like it. And this one's perfect, matching really, really well. Okay, now I come to this shot. Now let's say I want actually this shot to be my reference. Okay, I want this shot. So you click and say, well, this is the shot that I want, like when she's like, looking exactly like this. So what you do now, you just right mouse click on the clip here, and you say match this shot using currently previewed shot. Currently previewed is what's on the left, okay? And you click on that. And now it's going to go and recalculate based on that. So this is another way how you can just, grab a look from other scene, because you don't always have to have a reference. You can just grab a look from scene. The other option for me would have been that I come here, press G, right? And then use the G for matching. But I can also just do this single mouse, do exactly the same thing. Okay, I like it. It's interesting. I'm going to actually make it as a reference. I'm going to maybe just open it up, and I'll add a little bit more yellow to it. So it means I'm going to move my other one in another direction. Perfect. That's good. And then let me go and say, but you know what? This shot, rather, it's not really in succession. So I don't really want to use this as a reference. So for this shot, I'm actually going to go and say, okay, use this shot maybe as a match. Okay, so I'm going to say match this shot using currently previewed. Okay, so you see, you don't always have to rely purely on some shot that is in your scene to be the reference. You can match it, you can move from something else. And actually did a pretty good job. You see, like it actually did a better job than if I was to use this. Because look, if I was to, I'm going to just grab this to save it. If I was to use this shot as a reference and I was to say match the rest of the scene, because it's like a wide shot of a desert and there is no person inside, right? You see how it gives everything the tonality, where about here, I'm more consistent to what I had in these sequences. So that's really good, right? And then I'm just going to say copy, and then on this shot, I'm going to say paste. So you see, I can also copy and paste between the shots. But maybe that this shot needs to pair with this one here. So I'm going to say, okay, this is the shot, and I'm going to go and match this shot using the preview, right? Again, it's just going to go and say, all righty, I'll match it now. And this is now so much better. You see, it did a much, much better match. So you don't always have to use your kind of shot, which is, offered to you as one inside your scene as the reference. You can grab those things over. Okay. Now let's go. These shots are, looking to be really problematic. This was shot at the end of the day. You see the light was already gone. You see there's a sunset here. This shot is probably better because there was still some light. Okay, so I think that maybe these two shots should match, So let me go and try this and say, match this shot using currently. Okay, no, I have to go and say, boom. Let me do this one. Match this shot using currently previewed. Okay, Excellent. And now I'm there. Actually, this is not too bad with a little bit contrast, you know, I'm going to actually get there, and I'm going to increase a little bit temperature. Much better now that I have a temperature going. Now I'm going to say, hey, you be my reference and see what's going to do now with this shot here. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to open and say, give me all options. I want to see all choices that I have for this. You know, I'm not want to be limited. I really, and then with B and N, I'm going to go and scroll through all of these shots and find the one that I feel gives me the best look. Okay. And I would have to tell you something that I think, you know, that this kind of, you know, like even though these ones are a little bit darker, I like them more because they keep my sky looking really beautiful. And it's kind of end of the day shot. And I'm just going to go into printer lights, and in there, I will increase it a little bit, you know, just to get it openness. But you see, I found that, you know, that color just really worked a little bit better for those. Okay, so there we go. We kind of matched it. Now, you don't always have to send everything to Resolve. What I think it's the good workflow, by the way, is that when you start your project, you move everything to Colourlab. And then you can always go back and forth. As long as you did first time, you moved it first time, and your timeline is staying exactly like that, your shot's not moving around in a timeline, which is usually the case in grading with lock timeline, then you can always go back and forth. You don't have to be always going like, oh, I do and grade. No, you can actually go and grade, you come back, you go move around, you know, you can totally kind of, you know, be flexible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just click on this shot here, and I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to say sync this shot with Resolve. Okay, now what it's going to do, it's going to ask me to save, of course, wants to be saved. And I'm going to say CLAI Resolve class. Okay, very good. And now it's going to sync only that one to Resolve. All right, now, okay, it's finished. Thank you very much. I'm going to go now to Resolve, and look, only that shot has now been synced. Okay, and what is also happened is that it has synced it so that it has applied only, let me just have to move my videos here. Where is it? Look, it has used the standard workflow, which is IDT, CDL, ShowLUT, and ODT. Okay, and I can just use this as a little bit just to test to see how things would work. But I like to work with a particular node tree. Okay, I like to work with a particular node tree. And what I do is I have in my gallery and under my power grades, I have some fixed node trees, okay, that I have built for myself, you know, a little bit in the past, all right? So for example, I have this fixed node tree. So I'm just gonna go and apply this node tree. Let me show you what that looks like. I know it looks a little scary to begin with, but don't worry. So I have here CDL, ShowLUT, trim, you know, then I have qualifiers and I have some windows. It's a simple one, you know. Then I have some, you know, sort of adjustments here that I've made, you know, trims, we call them. And then here at the end, I usually put some texture or something like that. So let's say this is the node tree that I built for this project and that I want to use. Okay, so what you do then is you right mouse click and you say export. Okay, and now you say, all right, I'm going to export it as a JPEG file, and I'm going to call this, my fixed tree, let's say number 3, okay? And then let's just put it onto my desktop, you know, so hopefully I'm not going to lose it on my desktop, yeah? And I'm going to say export. Boom. Excellent. So now that this was exported, let's go back into Colourlab. Then you click here onto project settings, okay? And in project settings, you say DaVinci Resolve Sync, and where it says here, use default tree, say select custom node tree, okay? And it's gonna ask you to import it. And this is the one, you see my fixed DRX, open it, okay? Then it asks you, hey, where do you want to put the nodes that we are sending? And you have to tell it put 4 nodes in total. Okay, my first one IDT, my CDL is number 2. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I didn't make a place for my thing and for the IDT. So I think I'm just gonna go and have to rename it a little bit. Let me just go and okay, so this is gonna be my IDT. This is gonna be my let me just rename it now. I just realized. Okay, so IDT Then I'm going to go put this to be CDL, and this is going to be my ShowLUT. Okay, ShowLUT. And now I'm going to go and make another node here, and I'm going to make it a trim. Okay, so I'm just going to modify it a little bit. And then here on my bottom part here, always as the completely last node, I'm going to make a new one, which is called an ODT node. Okay, so this is, so I have a 1, 2, 3, and 23. Okay, now I'm going to go and grab this as a still. Okay, so now I have saved it, and I'm going to just, quickly rename it so I don't forget what it is. This is my fixed node tree 4. Okay, and now let's export it again. So export, and then I'm going to go and say, all righty, I'm on desktop, and then I'm going to go and call it, okay, give me here, fixed node tree 4. Fixed node tree 4. Excellent. All right, and export. Now I'm going to need to import a new one. All right, so let's do it again. So I'm going to go and say, no, listen, I want to change this one. I don't want that one. I want the new one, which I just exported from desktop. And it's going to be fixed node tree 4. Excellent. Okay. Oh, I need to import a new one. Sorry, so I have to say here, select custom node tree, fixed node tree 4. Open. Excellent. Okay, cool. So now I have 1, 2, 3, and what did I say? 23 was the one, isn't it? 23. Okay, and this is going to be 23. All right. So let me show you what's going to happen now when I start working like that. Okay, so let me just close this. So this is now saved. And then, I'm going to just move the window here. Okay, so come here, right mouse click, and say sync this shot with resolve. Okay, now it's going to do the same thing. It's syncing it. Okay, all right. Thank you for letting me know. I'm going to go now to resolve. Now look, now I got everything over, but you see my IDT is now here. My CDL is here. My ShowLUT is here. My trim is here that I'm not using. And all the way at the end, we have an ODT. Okay, and what's beautiful about it is that all your node tree is working scene referred. Okay, now if you want to work completely column managed, what you can also do is you can say, hey, what I want to export now is not a Rec 709. I want to export an ODT that is going to be our native Arilog C. Okay, and now I'm going to go and say, okay, fine. Then sync again this shot, just this shot. Okay, so what's going to do now is going to effectively make no IDT. When you select log C, right, it knows that it's exactly the same as everything else. So you see your ODT is blank. There is nothing on it. And then I can go into my timeline. I opened in here another serial node in timeline. Okay, and there I can just go and put a look designer and just drop it, and its default setting is going to be exactly that Rec 709. But what's beautiful about it is you can just also click on it and output it to Netflix HDR, HDR10, anything else that you want to output just with one click. You don't have to choose anything else in Look Designer, just use it for the output device transfer. I found that this particular ODT in Look Designer works a little bit better. But by the way, in the next update of Look Designer, we're adding more Rec 709 options. I will tell you, like, there's going to be some great and interesting new features coming in the new version that I'm just, trying to improve a little bit on these particular workflows. Okay, so I'm pretty good now, guys. I can then start grading, putting windows on and so on, So if I was now to say, all right, actually, let me just go and just move all of that scene, that I just graded. I'm going to say, okay, sync this scene with resolve. All right, and now it's going to do that. And I can then just quickly go and say, look, and this is what's really nice about it now, like, this is the speed of workflow. Look, I can come here now and I can say, all right, listen, I really, want to now apply, let's say here to this shot a vignette. And I already have a pre-calculated here vignette. You see, there's already like a window, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm juggling around, you know, okay, now it's better. I'm juggling around the Zoom windows as well at the same time. All right, let me go and bring this down a little bit. So I'm going to apply the vignette, you see? And then what I do is I go and say, okay, shift, select those, color, okay, ripple node changes to selected clips, and bang. Now I have the same, okay, it didn't do it. Let me go, I have to do it again. Let me see, what did I do? My right node tree, is it here? Yeah, should be good. Just a little bit like that. Shift, click those, color, ripple node changes to selected clips, bang. And now we got basically the same vignette applied to all of those clips, and so on and so on. You got the idea. So now I'm much quicker to work like this. I have a fixed node tree, I'm this, and I'm also like, staying scene referred. So I don't really have to, worry about anything like that. So I think this is a really, like a very, very neat feature. Like, you told us how you work, and we just basically, moved it to work around like that. That was all. All right. So I'm going to go back to Scena 9 here. There is also another option that you can do as well. And let me show you what that option is, which is another really useful feature. You can click here and you can say, hey, you know what? Send all versions when pushing to resolve. Okay, so let's see what that is going to do. So I'm going to go now and say, okay, you know what? This scene I just matched, I want to sync this scene again with resolve. Okay, it's asked me to save because, things have changed a little bit. Okay, now I want to wait a little bit, 1 second. A sip of water. Continue. Excellent. Oh, but now I have a double LUT. Let me just go and switch my timeline LUT quickly. Let me just switch it off because I pushed it as a 709, didn't I? All right, cool. All righty, go back to clip, and I'm just gonna go and update all thumbnails. Excellent, so I'm good. All right, now look what I get now. If I double click here, I have versions. So I can just go and say Command N, it's copy only. Command N, it's last user grade. Command N is my user grade. Command N is the theatrical look, and so on. So you see, I'm able to actually, see all the different versions that Colourlab was offering me. And so if I find myself sometimes in situation that I'm not sure which version is better and what I would like to do, which versions I could do, I can just sync all those versions. And they don't take that much space. Don't worry about it. They're not going to bloat your project. These are your versions. This is what you want to do. And you can just cycle to them and go and say which one's the one that you really like the most. For example, you see here, I can just go through versions and say, this one, this, like you have options to do any of that. And I think that's a really kind of a beautiful, freedom as well, is to kind of have like, you're not locked in. You can always go and, see what other options were available to me. Maybe you make some tweaks, maybe you make some other stuff in there that is also like, quite, useful for you as well. So that pretty much kind of, concludes to what I, had, so far. I think the only other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is how to work with the DaVinci Color Managed workflow. And I'm going to, show you that. It means when you decide to work inside, DaVinci Color Managed workflow. So what you can do is this. You can say, all right, you know what? I actually, don't want, you as a Colourlab to do my management. I want, DaVinci Resolve to do my management. So you click on this here now, and then you say, hey, I'm not going to be working in YRGB. I'm going to be working in DaVinci Color Managed. And I'm going to go and select, I always go like this. I always say DaVinci Wide Gamut. Okay. And I'm going to leave this output color space to Rec 709 because this is the one that I think it's absolutely, you know, essential one. Okay, this is going to work like that perfectly. Okay, and then what I need to do is I need to then say in my Colourlab, I have to then say that my output color space here is going to be DaVinci wide gamut. So my ODT, okay, has to be DaVinci wide gamut. So now I'm going to go and say, okay, you know, sync this scene with resolve. It's going to do that. Okay, check it out. Okay, let me just wait until it's kind of done. Syncing, syncing, syncing. Thank you very much. Okay, perfectly. Now I go into resolve. And you see, because I'm inside the color managed workflow, then resolve has applied automatically an ODT for me for that. And then all I have to do now is I have to do this. I have to switch off my IDT completely like here, and I have to tell resolve that my input color space for this is red, white gamut, RGB. Okay, and now I don't know. Okay, wait, did I select this? No, what is it? Input color space and input gamma should be red log 3 G10. There we go. Bang. And now it's giving me exactly, you know, that kind of, you know, the color managed output from DaVinci Resolve. Because I was using my custom IDT, right? This is why there is a little discrepancy. You know, I haven't had it, but if I had been using the original IDT, you know, that I had originally selected, not the custom one, we would have this exactly matching completely. So this is so if you're going to be using color managed workflow, you have to then export with wide gamut and disable the IDT node, because that's, you don't really need, you know, it's going to be using, you know, it's IDT that comes from DaVinci. We're also planning to make this a little bit simpler, that you just tell application, hey, I'm going to be using, you know, DaVinci color management, and then we're going to know automatically that we won't be sending, you know, the IDTs back. And this is also something that's coming in the next release. But for the moment, you're going to have to just switch off the IDT like this. I'm going to be doing next week another training like this. We're going to be going and diving a little bit deeper into some other functionality. There is so much to explore, you know, so we're going to be like, you know, going every week, you know, learning some new things. Next week, I'm going to be going deeper into the look design, into Look Designer. This is my aim, is really to help you, like, you know, quickly build very good looks and so on. So we will be like, you know, exploring all these different options really that, you know, we have in Colourlab Ai and all the things that we can do. But I'm so happy also that I left some time for, you know, questions and answers. So Ian, how is everything looking in the chat? Is there anything, any questions or anything you want me to answer?
Yeah, to go from the bottom up, quick recap for RCM2. You turn the IDT node off then.
Correct. So what you do is this. Look, so just a recap again. So what you have to do first is you have to tell it that you are outputting to DaVinci wide gamut. You know, where I normally select it to be Arilog C, okay? Here you have to tell it, oh, be DaVinci wide gamut. Okay, so that's an important part. Okay, once you did that, then you go back to your project. You hopefully, if you started the project color managed, you have had all of these IDTs set up already. So you wouldn't have had the same problem like I have right now, that I have to go disable IDT, and then I have to tell it, hey, you know, this is my color space, red, white, gamut, RGB, and then I'm gonna go and say input gamma, red, white, gamut, RGB, red log 3G10, okay? So when you do that, you know, these two, then you see then resolve is managing your IDT and ODT. And you are just sending a CDL and ShowLUT effectively from Colourlab Ai. Because by telling it, hey, my ODT here is Alexa White Gamut, sorry, is DaVinci White Gamut, this one here, right? You're effectively, you know, giving it just a free ride so that it can use exactly, everything without an ODT. So this is a way how to, just fit into the color managed workflow.
Great. Is AJA cards going to be on the roadmap?
We're considering that, because there is a rumor that they're going to develop one for an iPad, that is going to work with a new iPad Pro. And if that happens, then we are definitely going to do it, but right now, we haven't had many requests for it. But if someone was to, if this really an iPad version happens, as they say that it will, we're definitely going to support it. So for sure, let's kind of watch this space.
Okay. And then I had someone reach out to me about camera profiles. Are we still taking camera profiles and charts for new cameras that are coming out?
So what, sorry, can you ask me again? Sorry, I didn't hear that last bit.
Oh, someone reached out about a new camera. So they wanted to know if there's going to be added profiles, what they can do to help get new profiles into Colourlab.
Which camera?
They free fly some sort of high speed camera. He's going to email us about it, but it's a free fly systems wave.
Okay, so if you have a lookup table for that camera that is going to convert from that camera to ARRI wide gamut log C, then all you have to do today, right now, all you have to do is just do this. Look, you click on the camera profiles. Okay, let me just reduce these windows. It's really hard when you work on a single screen and you have a zoom in a way. All right, you click on this and look here in the bottom, at the bottom is a button which says import custom IDT camera profile. And you just click on that and you import that LUT. The LUT has to be your camera color space to Alexa wide gamut RGB. Now, sorry, it's Alexa wide gamut log C. If you don't have that profile, if you have anything else, please send it to me. Just email help@colorlab.ai, and I'm going to build it in. We want to support every camera now. Now that we have a new IDT tool and things are so well organized, we really want to support every one. Okay. And you want one in a look designer as well, Jack, yeah? Okay, fine. So look designer is going to be like every time we update, look designer, it's going to be updated both in, Colourlab Ai and in a plugin. There is an update for look designer coming, betas released next week, and hopefully in 2 weeks time, we're going to have a full release with some great new features. So, I'll try to fit this camera in. Please send it to me now, and I'm going to do this. No problem at all. Any plans to have Colourlab Ai on a new? Yes, there is an absolutely plan for that. We are not going to go full fat, as they say. First we'll start with a smaller, functionality, and then we're going to build it. It's already on the roadmap. We're waiting for our iPads to arrive for us to start testing and working on it. So yes, I cannot tell you exactly how fast this is going to go. The reason why I can't, because my first most important job is to build a new match engine, which we have just tested, and we have a new code that we just have to implement. And then once we've finished that, then our next most important job is to do that. There's going to be also some interesting things like, how are we going to connect iPad with a desktop? There's questions like that have opened ourselves. How are we going to monitor? The first thing we want to do is we want to monitor HDR on the iPad from Colourlab, connect those two that you can use an iPad Pro as a monitoring device, because it's absolutely beautiful picture, so we're definitely going to utilize that iPad Pro as much as possible. And our goal is, yes, it's going to be available together with AI matching, running everything on an iPad. But, we need to just really get the hardware, really start using it practically to see how this is all going to work, but yeah, it's coming, it's happening. Yeah, so
even 360 cameras for IDT profiles for if they're doing 360 video.
What's the camera type? Yeah, and it doesn't matter if the camera is 360 or not. For us, it's exactly the same. It's not just the material, so it works. Okay. No problem at all. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. As long as you have a LUT that's going to convert to Arilog-C, then you're good to go, mate. No problem. And if you don't have that LUT, send it to me what you have, and I can then engineer that LUT. I can make you that LUT. Yes, this is absolutely fine. I can understand why you guys want to use 360 cameras, because you want to match different angles. I can totally get you. This is absolutely fine. But you know what? With the new engine, you're going to be able to go even closer for that, because new engine has got the primary focus to match camera differences as well, closer. So what we're building is that, even if you have like a multicam shoot, that these cameras just get much closer to one to another. So, this is really my aim for that, Hey, Jack, you said Canon C-Log2, but don't we have a Canon C-Log2 already? Let me see, what's the problem with Canon? I can't believe that we're still struggling to get, does Canon really have so many options that I don't know? 1 second. So Canon, Let's see. So what do we have? Yeah, this is Canon C-Log2. This is the one. And you see, you have a Canon C-Log2 709 and C-Log2 is Cinema Gamma. So Jack, you should be able to have both. Are you okay with these two? Or is there one that I missed?
Oh, I think maybe he wanted it in Look Designer. Was that Look Designer or Colourlab? Look Designer.
Look Designer. Okay. Sorry. Let me write this down. I wasn't aware of it. I thought we had those IDTs sorted already. I will move them into the Look Designer as well. So IDT sync from CLAI, and I'll check that Canon is there. We're gonna add the new. Thomas asked me for the what's the log 2 of that iPhone application. So we're gonna add that. If I got anything, I think Mavo. I think I'm gonna add that. Everything's gonna come in. We're totally going for it. Yeah. Excellent. So it's C-Log2 709. So what you're saying is that C-Log2 709 doesn't exist in Look Designer. Okay, fine. I have to check that. It's possible, man. There's so many of those. It's like the options are endless. Give me more options, right? I totally get you. All righty, guys. Okay. Let me see. Any more questions? Okay. Could you, does output blanking from Colourlab carry into Resolve, or is this only on rendered video? Rishi, this is only on rendered video. We actually do not do any output blanking. This is just for us to preview. So, we really don't want to, tackle geometry when you're sending back and forth. We really want to kind of you to be free of that, so that there is no problems with this. So, I think, but, if in the future we have to do some, repositioning, we're going to build that feature in. But right now, the way how most people are using it is just to do the color, and then all the other repositioning and everything that all happens inside, DaVinci, right? Okay, so Marek said the contrast looks never the same in DaVinci and Colourlab for me. Doesn't matter which color management I choose, DaVinci, Colourlab. Okay, Marek, are you on a PC or on Mac? If you want to unmute.
I'm on a Mac.
On a Mac, of course, because you're using Colourlab Ai. Okay, fine. All right. So look, what happens is that when you look at this image here on like a waveform monitor, does that image change also on a waveform monitor, or does it change just on a preview on your screen? What doesn't match? Which part is wrong?
If I'm switching between the two programs and I both on a calibrated monitor, it looks never the same. The preview is never the same.
Which preview? In your SDI preview?
Yes.
Or SDI doesn't look the same. Or is it the preview on your desktop?
It's the preview on a desktop, but on a calibrated monitor.
Okay. So when you have that problem, then it is 99% the situation with color management. Okay, you know what I showed at the beginning. Okay, so what is your calibrated monitor?
It's an ISO 4K.
Perfect. And you calibrated it as sRGB, right?
It has some internal profiles like Rec 709, sRGB. You can switch between them.
Okay, so let's say it's sRGB and sRGB because it needs to tell to your Mac what's the profile that it's using. It needs to use that profile. Okay, so what happens is that, your Mac reads through the, DVI cable or whatever you're using to connect. If it's a digital connection, it's going to say, hey, what's the profile that this monitor is using? What's the ICC that I should be using? And there is something in Mac's operating system called Color Sync that is going to need that information. Okay, I assume that it's, let's say, sRGB. Okay, so those steps at the beginning, just in case you missed, you go into preferences, okay, and then you say here, use 10-bit precision and use Mac display. Make sure the two are on. Okay, then you have to select here inside the DaVinci's timeline, but don't use color management. You have to use, unfortunately, not color management for this to really work. You have to tell it sRGB here. Okay, sRGB and sRGB here. And if you want to try this now while we're on a call, and then you go here and you go into Colourlab, and inside the Colourlab in preferences, you tell here display to also be, there is like a setting here for color. You tell it, oh, I'm also going to be sRGB and sRGB. Then you're using exactly the same color sync that is being used for your DaVinci, and we are taking that same color sync and we're applying it in Colourlab. And they should then look exactly identical because we are then relying on Mac to do the syncing. And if you still have a problem, email us and we'll fix it for you.
Okay, great, thanks.
No problem. No problem. I actually really worked a long hours and had Apple case for this, and I was hoping that we have completely eradicated this problem. But so I'm adamant that we actually clear it. So please let me know if you still find it. Don't worry, if you're using everything through SDI, Charles, these settings don't affect you. There is no color management applied to SDI output. SDI is just your SDI. There is absolutely nothing like that. Correct. So Thomas, when you're working on MacBook Pro, you're on P3D65. That's right. And okay. So what you're doing here is when you're working on MacBook Pro, you're using this one, P3D65 SDR. Yes, this is going to give you like a, you should use this option, Thomas, only if your main delivery is going to be on Mac and you want to take advantage of that beautiful P3D65 that you can get on Mac. The problem with that is that the moment you move out of anything that's Catalina or something like that, the people will not get those tags correct and it's not going to look right. Okay. If you guys want to be like a, really most compatible with everything, if you say, I'm going to render only for desktop and I want this to be correct on PCs, Macs, Androids, iPhones, then render this setting, sRGB. This particular setting is going to give you the most compatible result for everything. This is going to be your exact setting that you should be using. Okay, I actually have to check. This one doesn't look necessarily right to me now. Why is it jumping like this? I'm going to have to actually double check that. But sRGB is the one that is most widely accepted as the kind of most neutral setting. And when you render it out, the tags are correct, and it actually ignores the tags completely. It works without tags. So this is the one that I would recommend you should check. It's a nightmare, by the way, but we kind of have a solution, how to work with that, hopefully, right? Okay. Any more questions, or we're good? In that case, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I think what I'm going to do is, as soon as we got this update for DaVinci Color Management, I'm going to do another kind of, training just, within a more elegant version for DaVinci Color Management workflow when we are going to be disabling these IDTs and ODTs. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next Friday when we're going to be doing Look Designer Deep Dive. I'm going to, be taking you on a journey to how to get in Look Designer to do looks you want, how to import profiles from other applications, how to, you know, get it to, you know, look, this is such a powerful tool in combination with reference stills, how you can build looks, how you can build on top of looks, and so on. So it's actually going to be really, really interesting class. It is really powerful in some way, maybe even more powerful than what you can do in DaVinci plugin as well. But you know, like it's just going to be really, really interesting. It's about look creation and look design. So thank you all. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for tuning in. And Ian is going to post the recording. And yeah, see you on Discord in the meantime. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks,
bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.